Can we chat real estate for like quick second before we get to the phones?
Sure.
Okay, so he just said on the last call, that things are kind of slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people were kind of feeling that, even in Nashville a little bit. It's not like insane like it was 6 months ago. And I've heard you say how the housing prices will probably not dip down like '08.
Right.
So the difference, or what is the difference in the market from '08 to now? Because I've heard people say, well, I'm going to wait until the prices go back down and they're not as red hot to buy today because the prices are crazy to buy a house right now. But they won't go back. Your prediction, if you had a crystal ball, that they're not going to go back. Is it because the '08 crash had to do around all the borrowing from mortgages and security-backed loans, all of that? Is it because that recession was fueled by the real estate market that it went down and this is different? Or what's the reason? Because I hear that question constantly of like, oh, people think that the housing prices are going to go back down.
It's
like
not.
08.
It's not always as simple as supply and demand, but it almost always is. Now, what causes the supply shortage and the demand increase, or the demand to be down and the supply to go up, is varying things, and you can start looking at that. But the root issue of what drives house prices almost always is supply and demand, and that's true. So the old joke of in an appraisal class. I was in appraisal class.
Give me an old joke of the old appraisal class.
Well, it is.
I don't know much.
Real estate has one joke, and this is it. What determines the price of real estate? Location, location, and location.
Yeah.
But not really, because. So in other words, you could take a concrete block house that's 1,000 square foot and put it in the rich end of town, and it'll bring a whole lot more than a really nice house in the dumpy, crime-ridden, horrible end of town.
Right.
Okay. So it's not the quality of the house. It's not the thing. It's not the mortgage rates. It's where the stinking thing sits. Okay? The people perceive that. Why does that affect it? Well, because more people it's more desirable to live over there. More people chasing that piece of dirt than chase the dirt over in the other end of town.
Yeah.
And so it is supply versus demand ultimately. Now, interest rates affect that. When interest rates go up, guess what? Fewer buyers.
Yep.
So the demand goes down. Thus, prices are going to soften or not be as cray-cray as they have been, right? And that's what we're seeing right now. If supply can go up, even if interest rates go up, if supply went up faster, if we could double the amount of houses on the market by snapping our fingers and interest rates went to 6%, which they are, okay, or 5 and some change, whatever, right? Then you would see demand, you'd still see, because there's 10 houses for every 2 buyers instead of 2 houses for every 10 buyers.
Yeah.
That's the problem is that we're always facing is this supply-demand thing. Now, in 2008, what happened was there was a tremendous oversupply because foreclosures went everywhere. And the market just froze. Nobody was buying houses. Had nothing to do with the economy, really. Had nothing to do with interest rates. It had to do with there was a real estate panic. And people quit buying, and there's this huge supply. We dumped a bazillion properties on the market, and all the buyers are standing on the sidelines looking at it. So almost no demand, huge supply. So you see one time in the last 100 years that real estate prices actually went down, and that was 2008. But that was huge supply, almost no demand. Now, what do we got right now? Shortage of houses. And the buyers are calming down because interest rates are going up, and supply is catching up slowly because some of the new housing stuff starting to come back on. Labor shortage is starting to a little bit be alleviated. Some of the Biden bucks are running out. People are actually having to go back to work. The lumber prices have stabilized, so new housing is coming on the market again at a better rate than it was, say, a year and a half ago. So we got a little bit of supply up and a little bit of demand down, and so we've got a softening in the rate of increase of price. But you're not going to see prices go down because you're not going to see the demand versus the supply shift enough to cause prices to go down.
Okay, it's great.
That's what I keep looking at, and it's
Real
really
estate
not
101.
It's
the old appraisal class we all just got to go through, America.
Well, there you go. By the old guy. But
that's what I wanted to know, though, because it's still, even within our friend group, it's like people are talking about, okay, well, buying and this, and we want to do this, but we got to hold off here. And, and you hear the rumblings of we're just going to wait 12 months until prices go back down.
But here's the reason the economy and the stock market and real estate is so interesting, because it really is, at the end of the day, psychology. Is what are the buyers going to do? What are people going to do? Are they going to act? How are they going to react?
Mm-hmm.
And, if everybody thinks Facebook's going to be a big deal, you know what? Facebook stock goes up. If everybody thinks Apple is the second coming of Jesus, then Apple stock is, Apple has more money than Egypt, literally. It's crazy. And so, this kind of stuff, right? But what it amounts to is it's perception. People believe it, and they make it so. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy out there in the economy all the time. And so if enough people believe that the market is wonderful and crazy and white hot, then they go behave like that. And an asking price on a piece of real estate is no longer an asking price. It's a suggested starting point for the auction. And so because the cray-cray, it's all the psychology on it. And so, but if everybody suddenly went, you know what, I'm going to chill. Boom. You would freeze these prices like a deer in the headlight. And so we see that, like, if you go all the way back to when I was a kid, like 1982, okay? And Carter. Interest rates, fixed rates for mortgages went to 18%. Well, guess what? No demand. But house prices still didn't go down much.
Yeah.
If they did, it was just for a little bit. But you couldn't give a house away. If you had to sell a house, it was probably going to be maybe a little bit of a discount. But they still sat there, and then stinking prices came down to where I'm 24 years old selling houses in 1984 at 14% fixed rates. That year, they announced this brand new type of mortgage called the adjustable rate mortgage, an ARM. In 1984, you could get for 12%, your fixed rate was 14%, and people were lined up around the block. Why? Because all those people that didn't buy for the 3 years prior to that, because it was 18 and 17 and 16%, all of them came into the market in 1 year. Boom, market took off, went crazy at 14% interest rates.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's nuts.
But it's all supply demand. Underlying it. Now, different things cause the supply to be up or down, the demand to be up or down, but always be looking for that. That's going to tell you what's going to happen with the market.